He woke up in the same room, in the same bed, staring at the same cracked ceiling he'd been gazing at for 3 years. The same routine, the same job he despises, the same people who disrespect him. And there in the darkness of 5 a.m., he whispered the phrase he repeats every day, "I have no choice." But that is a lie. The truth is, you are not trapped in the world. You are confined by the fear of admitting that your entire life has been a sequence of choices you made, and that you pretend you didn't. Sartre explained this with necessary cruelty. The strongest prison is not made of iron bars, it is made of self-deception. And you built each of these barriers with your own hands. Here, you'll understand why freedom hurts so much, and why most men prefer to die a prisoner rather than face the truth that they've always held the key. If this has already happened to you, comment below. And if this video reminds you of someone living trapped in excuses, share it now. They will understand. The average man lives in a prison he designed himself, but spends his entire life pointing to the walls and yelling that it was the world that locked him inside. He complains about his job but doesn't seek another, complains about his relationship but doesn't end it, complains about the city but doesn't move. And when someone suggests a real change, he always has an excuse ready. It's not that simple, but it is exactly that simple. What isn't simple is admitting that you chose to stay where you are, because to admit that means recognizing you have power over your life, and that if you have power, you can no longer hide behind the victim role. The average man prefers slavery with excuses to freedom with responsibility. He's so used to saying, "I can't," that he forgot he once said, "I can." The prison isn't in the tyrannical boss, the controlling girlfriend, or the unsupportive family. The prison lies in the mind that turned "I don't want to face the consequences" into "I have no choice." And that's pathetic. Because deep down, every time you say, "I can't," what you're really saying is, "I'm afraid." Jean-Paul Sartre would say you're living in bad faith, the most sophisticated self-deception there is. Bad faith is when you lie to yourself about your own freedom, pretending you have no choice to avoid the anguish of having to choose. It's the cowardly strategy of someone who wants the benefits of victimization without taking responsibility for the costs. Sartre explained, "Man is condemned to be free." This means there is no way to escape making choices. Even when you decide not to choose, you have already chosen. Even when you pretend there are no options, you have already opted to pretend. The anxiety you feel before an important decision is not a sign of weakness, it is proof that you are free. And that is exactly why you run from it. Because true freedom is frightening. It eliminates all your excuses. It forces you to accept that your life is a direct result of your choices. And if you don't like the outcome, it's because you've made poor decisions. Sartre was brutal on this point. There is no destiny, no fixed human nature, no "this is just who I am." There is only you deciding who you want to be at every moment. And if you choose to be a prisoner, it's because, in some twisted way, being a prisoner serves your interests. Because being a prisoner means you can blame the prison for your failures. But Sartre strips away even that last excuse. You are responsible for everything you do, including what you do to yourself. I know a guy. Let's call him John. John is 28 years old and has been complaining about the same job for 5 years. Every day, "My boss is an idiot. This company doesn't appreciate me. I deserve something better." John says this at lunch, in traffic, on social media. But when you ask why he doesn't leave, here come the excuses. "The job market is tough. I have bills to pay. It's not the right time to take a risk." And John feels very smart, very rational. After all, he has solid arguments. But the truth is, John is afraid. Afraid to find out he might not be as good as he thinks. Afraid to leave his comfort zone. Afraid to admit that if he fails somewhere else, there will be no one else to blame but himself. So John prefers the known prison. At least there, he can feel superior to the idiot boss and gain sympathy from colleagues through his daily complaints. John's prison has no bars. It has emotional benefits. He gains victim status, the right to complain, the license not to try. What can I do if I'm stuck? But John isn't really stuck. He chooses to stay where he is because leaving would require courage, and courage he doesn't have. The problem with a man who is imprisoned isn't a lack of opportunity. It's an over-attachment to his own excuses. He's addicted to the narrative that he's a victim of circumstances, because that story protects him from the responsibility to act. When you assume you have no choice, you automatically absolve yourself of any blame for the outcome of your life. It's the perfect crime. You destroy your own future and still manage to blame everyone but yourself. But this strategy has a hidden cost. The cost is your true freedom, because the moment you accept that you have no power over your life, you genuinely lose that power. Not because the world took it away from you, but because you voluntarily surrendered it. The mind of a person who is trapped works this way. They identify all the difficulties of change and use those difficulties as justification for not trying. They never ask, how can I overcome these obstacles? They ask, why are these obstacles preventing me? It's a subtle but crucial difference. One question seeks solutions, the other seeks excuses, and a trapped person always chooses the latter, because solutions require action. Excuses only require the creativity to invent new reasons why you can't act. If any part of this message has already made you reflect on the barriers you've built yourself, mark this moment in the comments. That's where change begins. And if this resonated with you so far, leave a like. Not for me, but for yourself. Now let me tell you about another guy. Let's call him Peter. Peter worked in the same office as John, with the same lousy boss, at the same company that didn't value anyone. The difference is that Peter realized something John never wanted to accept. He was there by his own choice. Peter didn't waste time complaining. He spent his time preparing. While John vented on WhatsApp, Peter studied at night. While John listed all the reasons he couldn't leave, Peter listed all the skills he needed to develop to leave. Peter understood what Sartre was trying to teach. You may not control the circumstances, but you always control your response to those circumstances. In 6 months, Peter was in a different job. Better salary, better environment, better future. John stayed. To this day, he's in the same place with the same complaints. The difference between them wasn't luck, opportunity, or privilege. It was that Peter embraced the anguish of responsibility, while John preferred the comfort of victimization. Peter took responsibility for his life. John continued waiting for someone to save him. Peter used his energy to build bridges. John used it to build walls. And today, Peter is free. Jerome remains incarcerated in the same cell he himself locked. The cell has never had a lock. You merely spent so much time pretending to have lost the key that you ultimately believed the lie. Sartre had a devastating phrase, "Man is nothing more than what he makes of himself." This means you are not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of your choices in the face of those circumstances. And this is the most terrifying and liberating news you will hear today. Terrifying because it eliminates all your excuses. Liberating because it restores all power to your hands. If you want to escape the prison, you must do 3 things. First, stop lying about your options. You always have at least 2. Accept or change. If you choose to accept, own it. Don't pretend you had no choice. Second, embrace the anguish of freedom. Every significant decision will generate anxiety, fear, doubt. That's normal. It's proof that you're taking true responsibility for your life. Third, act even with fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is acting despite fear. The free person acts. The imprisoned person endlessly plans the action they will never carry out. The difference between imprisonment and freedom is not the size of the obstacles. It's the willingness to face them. You can continue pretending you're imprisoned. Or you can accept that you have always been free, and that your imprisonment was always a choice. The most cowardly choice you've ever made. But it's still a choice, and choices can be reversed. The world has never been your prison. The world has always been merely the stage where you choose to play the role of prisoner or free man. Sartre knew this. That's why he was so hated and so loved. Because he stripped away the last comfortable excuse we have. the illusion that we are helpless victims of circumstances. The naked truth is this: you are where you are because in some way you chose to be there, even if unconsciously, even if denying it, even if hating it. You chose. And if you chose once, you can choose differently. The cell door has never been locked. You were only afraid to discover what lies on the other side. But on the other side exists something no one can give you or take away: authentic freedom. The freedom to be responsible for your own life. The freedom to fail on your own, not because of others. The freedom to succeed knowing it was you who succeeded. Sartre died free. Will you die free or die a prisoner of yourself? Now tell me, are you still going to pretend you have no choice? Or have you already realized that you've always had all of them? Write this down. It's your contract to break free from deception. And if you want to keep hearing truths that no one else will have the courage to tell you, subscribe. Here, illusion doesn't survive. Only raw truth, only real freedom.